People don't break the internet, they break their own expectations. This isn't a catchy line to throw on a screen. It's the reality your past identity just exposed. For years, everyone believed they knew your story, neatly packaged and comfortably predictable. They had their mental image of you, pinned it to their timelines, and carried it around like it was gospel. Then you moved, shifted, evolved, and the internet didn't just notice, it shattered. Their minds went on a glitching loop because the version of you they bookmarked never existed in the way they imagined. Here's the kicker. Studies show the human brain prefers pattern over chaos, comfort over challenge. That's why when someone breaks free from the mold everyone else painted, the reaction isn't curiosity, it's shock. Suddenly you're not just a name or a face, you're a revelation. The old narrative collapses, and people are left holding fragments of assumptions that no longer fit. It's like handing someone a puzzle piece that belongs to a completely different puzzle, and watching them insist it should have fit all along. Humorously, it's almost poetic. While they were busy trying to read you like an open book, you were quietly writing chapters they couldn't even imagine. The irony? They were certain they had the pen. You, however, were already drafting the next edition. The shock, the awe, the disbelief, this isn't just a reveal. It's a mirror reflecting their own laziness to truly see. And when that mirror cracks, well, that's when the internet breaks and minds get shattered. This isn't about revenge or about proving them wrong. It's about the undeniable truth. The person you were yesterday is nothing compared to the person you've become today. And no one could have predicted this transformation until it hit them like a silent explosion. The reaction isn't just a comment or a click. It's an acknowledgement that you are, and always have been, unreadable, unstoppable, and unapologetically beyond their expectations. Number one, people are stunned because your evolution wasn't supposed to happen under their version of your story. They built a version of you in their minds, and that version came with rules, limitations, and a script they thought you would never deviate from. They assumed they had you figured out because the past is always easier to read than the present, and they used it as a blueprint for everything you could or couldn't become. The shock hits hard because your reveal proves that their understanding was shallow, surface level, and entirely based on assumptions. They thought they knew the boundaries of who you were, but you quietly tore those walls down while they were still busy labeling you. What makes this so striking is that evolution is invisible until it explodes into view. Growth doesn't announce itself to those who aren't paying attention, and transformation often happens in silence. You didn't need approval, recognition, or validation from anyone to evolve. You just did the work, made the changes, and let the results speak. That's why when your past identity gets revealed alongside the person you've become, it's like watching a glitch in their mental software. Their neat narrative collapses because you refuse to conform to the character they had cast you as. The truth is, people are naturally resistant to change, especially when it challenges their understanding of someone they thought they knew. They cling to their version of you because it's comfortable and predictable, and your evolution forces them out of that comfort zone. Your growth doesn't just redefine you, it rewrites their expectations, and that twist is disorienting. It's a reminder that the past doesn't dictate the future, and that anyone can become something entirely unexpected if they're willing to put in the work when no one is watching. In the end, the reason people are stunned isn't just because you changed. It's because you changed in a way they didn't anticipate, in a way that made their assumptions look foolish, and in a way that proved one undeniable fact. No one controls the story of your life except you. Your evolution was never theirs to predict. Number two, your transformation exposed how lazily people observe others. Most people go through life assuming they understand those around them, but the truth is they rarely pay attention. They see what they expect to see, hear what confirms their beliefs, and ignore everything else. Your transformation shattered that illusion because it revealed just how shallow their observations were. They thought they knew you, yet they hadn't noticed the subtle shifts, the quiet determination, the moments of growth that happened away from their view. Your reveal wasn't just surprising, it was a spotlight on their own inattentiveness. People are used to surface-level interactions. They see the mask, the routine, the version of you that fits neatly into their mental categories, and they rarely look deeper. But transformation doesn't happen on the surface. It happens in the choices, the habits, and the silent work that nobody sees. When you finally revealed yourself, it forced them to confront the reality that all this time they had been spectators to a version of you that was only partially true. Their shock isn't just about your change, it's about their own failure to notice it until the evidence could no longer be ignored. The laziness of their observation also shows how comfortable people are with assumptions. They would rather hold on to the old story than pay attention to the ongoing evolution happening right in front of them. Your growth doesn't ask for validation or permission, it just happens. And when it surfaces, it exposes the cracks in how people think they understand the world and the people in it. This revelation is uncomfortable because it mirrors a universal truth. Most people are blind to subtlety and nuance. Your transformation isn't just a personal victory, it's a mirror held up to everyone who underestimated the depth of your journey. The awe and shock they feel is as much about your evolution as it is about their own inability to see clearly. In showing them who you have become, you also revealed how little attention they paid, and that realization stings more than anything else. Number 3. The shock comes from the fact that you upgraded without broadcasting your construction process. People expect growth to be loud. They expect it to come with announcements, highlights, and constant updates so they can track your progress and feel like they were part of it. They want to see every step, every struggle, and every victory because it gives them a sense of control over your narrative. But you didn't play by those rules. You upgraded silently, deliberately, and meticulously, and that alone is what makes your reveal so shocking. They weren't prepared for the magnitude of the change because they didn't witness the process, and the sudden unveiling of your evolution feels like a glitch in their understanding of reality. Upgrading in silence is powerful because it leaves no room for interference. There's no criticism to distract you, no unsolicited advice to dilute your focus, and no expectations to weigh you down. You moved in the shadows while everyone else was busy projecting their assumptions onto you. When the final version of yourself emerged, it wasn't a gradual shift they could adjust to. It was a jolt, a sudden reality check that their picture of you was incomplete, outdated, and fundamentally wrong. The brilliance of silent evolution is that it forces people to deal with the finished product rather than the drafts. They can't argue with effort they didn't see, and they can't belittle progress they didn't witness. Your growth hits harder because it appears effortless to outsiders, even though they have no idea of the work behind it. That contrast between perception and reality is what shatters expectations. People are stunned because they assumed your growth would follow their timeline, their narrative, and their rules. Instead, you rewrote everything quietly and efficiently, leaving them scrambling to reconcile the old version of you with the undeniable, upgraded reality. Your transformation didn't ask for permission, it didn't seek approval, and it certainly didn't require anyone to be ready for it. That's why the shock is so profound. It's not just who you became, it's the fact that you did it entirely on your own terms. Number 4. Your past identity was their comfort zone, not yours. For years, people treated your old self like a familiar landmark in their world. It was safe, predictable, and easy to categorize. They relied on that version of you because it fit neatly into their mental map of who belongs where, who succeeds and who doesn't, and who is worth their attention. Your past identity wasn't just a memory for them. It was a rule book, a standard they could point to and say, "This is who they are." But the truth is, it was never your comfort zone. That old self was just a chapter, not a life sentence. You weren't limited by it. You were constrained only until you decided you wouldn't be. Your evolution was unsettling to them because it disrupted the version of reality they had grown accustomed to. People are wired to resist change, especially when it challenges their expectations. They liked who they thought you were because it allowed them to stay in control of their judgments, their opinions, and their reactions. When you grew beyond that, it wasn't just surprising, it was threatening to their sense of understanding. Your reveal forced them to confront the fact that their mental models were wrong, outdated, and irrelevant to the real you. What makes this even more striking is that you didn't grow to prove them wrong or to make them uncomfortable. Your growth was a necessity for yourself. It came from a place of self-priority, self-respect, and relentless determination to leave behind what no longer served you. Their surprise wasn't about your change. It was about the discomfort it caused them. They clung to the old version of you because it was convenient. You, however, were busy stepping into a version of yourself that demanded authenticity, risk, and courage. The result is seismic. Your reveal shows that comfort for others doesn't equal comfort for you, and that people often mistake the familiar for the best version of someone. By refusing to stay trapped in their expectations, you proved a universal truth. Your growth is yours alone, and anyone who built a world around your old self is going to have to rebuild their understanding from scratch. The shock is inevitable. They weren't prepared for someone who would prioritize themselves over their comfort. Number 5, your reveal forced people to confront how outdated their judgment truly is. People love certainty. They categorize, label, and assign value based on past impressions because it's easier than actually paying attention. They form opinions and hold on to them, believing that their judgment is accurate, complete, and permanent. Your reveal disrupts that illusion. Suddenly, all the assumptions, predictions, and evaluations they made about you crumble because the reality doesn't fit into the boxes they created. The shock they feel isn't just about who you are now. It's about how wrong they were for thinking they ever truly knew you. Judgment thrives on repetition and patterns. When someone defies those patterns, it creates cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable realization that what they believe doesn't match what exists. Your transformation acts as a mirror, reflecting their laziness, impatience, and inability to update their understanding. People who once thought they could define you now realize they were basing their entire perspective on a version of you that no longer exists. And that's painful. It's not just embarrassment. It's a subtle, simmering guilt for having underestimated, dismissed, or misread you all along. The beauty of this shock is that it doesn't require anyone to announce or explain themselves. You simply exist, fully evolved, and the contrast with the outdated perception is undeniable. Every glance, comment, or reaction from them becomes a confession of their own short-sightedness. It exposes the human tendency to cling to old information, to treat past impressions as if they were eternal truths. Your reveal dismantles that habit with brutal efficiency. What makes this even more powerful is that your growth wasn't contingent on their awareness. You weren't performing or seeking validation. You were quietly becoming more than they expected, and the moment of reveal is the moment they are forced to confront the gap between who they thought you were and who you actually became. That realization is disorienting, humbling, and unavoidable. Your evolution doesn't just redefine you, it exposes the fragility of their judgment and the shock is theirs to process. Number 6. Your reveal unintentionally exposed how many people were rooting for your stagnation. Some people don't just underestimate you, they quietly hope you stay the same. They watch, judge, and sometimes even subtly sabotage, not because they dislike you personally, but because your growth challenges their own comfort and sense of superiority. Your reveal, the moment when your evolution became undeniable, exposed this hidden truth. Suddenly, those who thought they were clever for assuming you'd remain predictable were confronted with the harsh reality. You moved, you grew, and you surpassed their expectations while they were busy rooting for your stagnation. It's a strange kind of shock because it forces them to reflect not only on your growth, but also on their own mindset. They were invested in an illusion, a story where you were static and contained, because it made them feel safe. Your transformation broke that illusion. People don't like being wrong, and being wrong about someone they thought they understood and were secretly hoping would stay small is humiliating. Your reveal shows that their hope for your stagnation was not just misguided, but entirely irrelevant. What makes this even more striking is that you didn't act to prove them wrong. Your growth wasn't a competition or a statement. It was your life unfolding naturally, your evolution inevitable. The irony is brutal. The very people who bet against you, who anticipated failure or mediocrity, are left in shock because you succeeded without needing their acknowledgement, their permission, or their belief in your potential. Their support was optional, and your achievement made it clear just how irrelevant their approval had always been. This revelation exposes a deeper truth about human nature. Some people are quietly invested in the limitations of others because it validates their own lack of ambition or courage. Your reveal tears through that illusion with surgical precision. It shows that personal growth doesn't exist to satisfy others. It exists to fulfill your own potential. And in doing so, it leaves everyone who underestimated you scrambling to reconcile the person they wanted you to be with the unstoppable person you have become. Number 7. Your identity shift revealed who was watching you for curiosity and who was watching you for confirmation. When people observe you, their intentions aren't always obvious. Some watch out of genuine curiosity, wanting to understand, learn, or connect. Others watch for confirmation, seeking proof that their assumptions, judgments, or doubts about you were correct. Your identity shift exposes this distinction in the clearest, most undeniable way. The reactions to your transformation instantly separate the spectators who genuinely cared from the ones who simply wanted to see you fail or remain predictable. This distinction is shocking because it strips away the masks people wear. Those who were invested in confirmation can't hide their surprise, resentment, or discomfort when the version of you they expected to see disappears entirely. They were hoping for a familiar story that reinforced their beliefs. And when that story is rewritten, their reactions are unfiltered, raw, and revealing. Meanwhile, the genuinely curious are silent witnesses, intrigued and perhaps inspired, but not rattled by the disruption of their expectations. Your reveal acts as a spotlight, illuminating the hidden motivations behind every glance, comment, or judgment they ever cast your way. What makes this moment even more powerful is that it's completely involuntary. You aren't performing, proving, or showing off. Your evolution is simply undeniable. Their responses reveal their true nature without any effort on your part. Those who were rooting for your stagnation show frustration, disbelief, or even thinly veiled bitterness. Those who were genuinely curious show admiration, respect, or quiet acknowledgement. The contrast is stark and unforgettable, a silent but brutal audit of everyone who has been paying attention. Your identity shift then is more than personal growth. It's a litmus test for the people around you. It exposes intentions, motives, and loyalties with surgical precision. The shock isn't just that you changed, it's that in changing, you revealed who was really present for the right reasons and who was only present to validate their own perspective. And that realization leaves a lasting impact. It forces people to confront themselves while simultaneously making it impossible to return to the old assumptions. You didn't just evolve, you exposed the truth about everyone watching. Number 8, the shock isn't who you used to be. It's who you became, despite that starting point. People are naturally inclined to define others by their beginnings. They notice the circumstances, the mistakes, the struggles, and use them as a measuring stick for what someone can achieve. Your past was never a secret, and many used it to quietly place limits on you, assuming that your starting point dictated your ending point. The shock they feel isn't about who you were. It's about the undeniable proof that beginnings don't determine outcomes. You became something beyond the framework they set for you, and that defiance of expectation is what shatters their perception. Your evolution is disorienting because it exposes a truth most people avoid facing. Potential isn't visible on the surface, and growth doesn't follow a predictable trajectory. They watched, judged, and sometimes mocked, assuming the past version of you defined your trajectory. Then you revealed yourself, fully transformed, and it was impossible to ignore that every assumption they made was flawed. Your success, maturity, and reinvention aren't just personal achievements. They're evidence that human potential is far more flexible, resilient, and surprising than anyone anticipates. What makes this even more striking is that your growth wasn't dependent on anyone's acknowledgement. You didn't need them to believe in you or cheer you on. You simply moved, adapted, and elevated yourself in ways they couldn't have predicted. The result is a collision between expectation and reality. They expected a linear, predictable path, and what they witnessed was radical, undeniable evolution. The shock is as much about their own underestimation as it is about your achievement. In the end, your transformation exposes a universal lesson. People will always try to define others by their past, but the true measure of someone is not where they started. It's how far they've come despite it. The disbelief, awe, and silent recalculation they experience when confronted with your evolution isn't accidental. It's the natural consequence of someone surpassing every boundary they imagined for them. Your story isn't just a reveal. It's proof that beginnings are irrelevant when determination, vision, and courage take over. Number 9, your reveal destroyed the illusion of knowing someone based on their past. People love to believe they understand others. They take a glimpse of someone's past, mistakes, habits, choices, and build an entire narrative around it, convinced they have a complete picture. Your reveal destroys that illusion entirely. It exposes the dangerous trap of assuming that yesterday defines today, that someone's past can predict their potential, and that people are static rather than evolving. When you step forward, transformed and undeniable, it forces everyone to acknowledge a truth they often avoid. The past is a reference, not a life sentence. The shock lies in the confrontation with their own errors in judgment. For years, they treated your history as if it were a rule book, a manual they could consult to anticipate every move, every decision, and every reaction. They were comfortable in their assumptions, confident that they knew you, only to have that certainty collapse instantly. Your reveal doesn't just surprise them. It dismantles the foundation of how they interact with people. They are forced to reconcile the version of you they assumed existed with the version you have now become, and that clash is jarring because it exposes how little they were actually paying attention. What makes this particularly compelling is the quiet power in your evolution. You didn't need to explain, justify, or prove anything. The contrast between the past and the present speaks louder than any words ever could. Every reaction, every stunned pause, and every recalculation they make is evidence of a single fact. They were wrong to treat the past as a blueprint. Your transformation becomes the undeniable proof that people are capable of far more than anyone expects, and that assumptions about character, potential, and trajectory are often built on thin air. By revealing your new self, you don't just redefine who you are, you challenge the entire framework people use to understand others. The shock isn't just about your evolution, it's about forcing them to face the fragility of their own perception. Your reveal is a masterclass in defying expectation, a living testament that the past never dictates the future, and that anyone who assumes they know you based on what was can be spectacularly proven wrong. Number 10, you broke their mental shortcut. They judged your future using expired information. People are wired to simplify the world. To avoid thinking too much, they rely on shortcuts, mental rules, and past impressions to predict what someone will do, who they will become, and how far they can go. These shortcuts work only until they meet someone like you. By revealing your transformation, you shattered the assumptions they built using outdated information. Their mental shortcut was supposed to save them time, energy, and effort, but you forced it to fail spectacularly. The shock isn't just about who you became, it's about how completely wrong their predictions were. Judging the future based on old data is convenient, but it's also lazy. People rarely update their opinions until reality forces them to, and even then they resist. They relied on the you from yesterday, treating it as if it were permanent, predictable, and finite. Then your reveal hit them like a disruption in a system they thought they understood. Every expectation they had, every assumption they clung to, crumbled because it was built on information that had expired long ago. What they didn't account for is that you were always evolving, quietly, consistently, and independently of their awareness. The brilliance of your evolution lies in its silent efficiency. You didn't need to alert anyone or announce every step. You simply grew, and the impact hit the moment you revealed yourself. People were forced to confront the discrepancy between their assumptions and reality, and that realization is uncomfortable, humiliating, and eye-opening all at once. It's a reminder that life isn't predictable, and anyone who relies on old impressions to forecast someone else's trajectory is setting themselves up for shock. Ultimately, your reveal isn't just about your growth, it's a lesson in perception. It exposes the danger of resting on outdated judgments, the fragility of assumptions, and the arrogance of thinking the past defines the future. By breaking their mental shortcut, you didn't just surprise them, you forced them to rethink the way they observe, evaluate, and anticipate people. The lesson is clear. Never underestimate anyone, because when they evolve beyond your expectations, your shortcuts fail, and the shock is yours to endure. Number 11. Your growth showed that other people's opinions have an expiration date. Most just never check the label. People treat opinions as if they are permanent truths. Once someone labels you, judges you, or decides what you're capable of, that opinion tends to stick in their minds, often without review or reevaluation. Your growth shattered that illusion. You evolved beyond the outdated version of yourself they had been clinging to, proving that opinions, like food, have a shelf life. And most people never bother to check if theirs is still good. The shock isn't just in your transformation, it's in the realization that their long-held beliefs about you are irrelevant. For years, they relied on a snapshot of your past. They assumed the habits, mistakes, and choices they witnessed defined your trajectory permanently. But growth doesn't consult anyone. It doesn't wait for validation or permission. It happens quietly, relentlessly, and often unseen. When you reveal the person you've become, their opinions collide with reality, and the result is a cognitive jolt. They're forced to face the fact that they've been operating with expired information. The shock is as much about your evolution as it is about their own oversight. What makes this even more disorienting is that they probably never intended harm. Most people simply don't update their assessments. They assume consistency because it's easier. Your reveal becomes a mirror, reflecting not only your evolution, but also their tendency to freeze others in time. It's uncomfortable because it shows that their understanding of the world and of you was passive and incomplete. Your growth exposes the fleeting nature of opinions and the danger of anchoring judgments to the past. By refusing to be constrained by what others thought of you, you demonstrate a truth that is as empowering as it is humbling. No one's opinion defines you indefinitely. The shock comes from the undeniable contrast between their stale assumptions and the undeniable reality of who you've become. People can hold on to their opinions, but your evolution proves they have an expiration date, and if you've been growing all along, their perspective becomes obsolete. Number 12. The revelation forced people to admit they treated you based on who they were, not who you were becoming. Most people never stop to consider how much of their perception of others is actually a reflection of themselves. They project their fears, insecurities, and limitations onto everyone around them, assuming that their interpretation of a person is the truth. Your reveal strips that illusion bare. Suddenly, it becomes obvious that the way they judged you, dismissed you, or underestimated you wasn't rooted in who you were. It was rooted in their own comfort zones and their own inability to envision growth beyond their limited perspective. The shock isn't just about your evolution. It's about the mirror it holds up to their own mindset. They assumed you fit into the boxes they created because it was easier than paying attention to the real work you were doing quietly. They measured your potential with their own standards, anchored your trajectory to their own experiences, and labeled your worth based on their biases. Your transformation forces them to admit that their assessment of you was never objective. It was a projection of their assumptions and limitations. The revelation leaves them grappling with the uncomfortable truth that they were reacting more to themselves than to you. What makes this even more impactful is the inevitability of the realization. You didn't need to confront them or explain yourself. The contrast between who you were and who you've become is undeniable. Every stunned reaction, every pause, every recalculation they make is an unintentional confession of how much their perspective was self-centered rather than reality-centered. Your growth highlights a simple, brutal fact. People rarely treat others as they truly are. They treat others as they expect them to be, as they need them to be, or as they can comfortably understand them to be. By evolving beyond their projections, you force them to face the truth they'd been avoiding, that their assumptions were never about you. The shock is theirs to endure, and in that shock lies the silent power of your transformation. You became exactly who you were meant to be, and in doing so exposed the blind spots in everyone who thought they knew you. Number 13. You proved that reinvention isn't a fresh start. It's a strategic demolition of everything that was limiting you. Most people think transformation is about erasing the past and starting over. They imagine it as a gentle reset, a clean page, or a simple upgrade. Your reveal proves it's far more intense than that. Reinvention isn't about forgetting who you were. It's about identifying every limitation, every doubt, every restriction that held you back, and tearing it down piece by piece. It's a deliberate act of dismantling the parts of your life, mindset, and habits that no longer serve your growth. The shock people feel when they see you isn't about a soft change. It's about the magnitude of the demolition you executed silently, and the undeniable result of a person who refused to be confined by their past. People underestimate how radical true reinvention is because most growth is performed in the open. They expect change to be gradual, visible, and easy to track. But your transformation happened strategically, deliberately, and often unseen. While others were watching the surface, you were inside, analyzing what to keep, what to improve, and what to destroy entirely. When the final result is revealed, the contrast is stunning. They see someone completely unrecognizable, not because the essence of you disappeared, but because you refused to allow limitations, judgments, or expectations to define your evolution. What makes this even more striking is the silent power in the process. Reinvention requires ruthless honesty with yourself, courage to dismantle comfortable routines, and determination to rebuild stronger foundations. You didn't merely change, you upgraded by systematically removing the parts of your past that were holding you hostage. That level of intentionality is disorienting to people who assumed they knew the trajectory of your life. By demonstrating that reinvention is strategic demolition, you reveal a truth people rarely want to accept. Growth isn't about playing it safe. It's about breaking barriers, refusing compromise, and constructing a version of yourself that makes everyone who underestimated you reconsider what's possible. The shock isn't just your transformation. It's the precision, depth, and intentionality behind it, and that's what makes it unforgettable. Number 14. Your reveal whispered the one truth people hate hearing. You were never predictable. You were simply unread. People love predictability. They crave patterns, expectable behavior, and easy narratives because it makes the world feel safe and controllable. They assume that if they've seen a version of you in the past, they can anticipate the future. Your reveal destroyed that illusion. The shock isn't that you changed. It's that they were never equipped to truly understand you in the first place. You weren't following a predictable script. You were evolving in ways that were invisible, nuanced, and beyond their comprehension. What they mistook for familiarity was never fully theirs to read. The power of being unread lies in the freedom it gives you. You weren't performing or playing to expectations. You weren't giving hints or leaving breadcrumbs for others to follow. Your growth was autonomous, deliberate, and entirely under your control. When your transformation became undeniable, the reactions around you revealed just how dependent people were on assumptions. Their surprise, confusion, and awe weren't just about your evolution. They were about the collapse of the narrative they thought they understood. You became proof that they had been trying to solve a puzzle without ever seeing the full picture, and that realization is uncomfortable, even humiliating. Being unread also amplifies the impact of your actions. Every choice, every shift, every reveal carries more weight because it can't be anticipated. People who try to predict your next move are left scrambling, forced to constantly recalibrate their assumptions. Your reveal is a reminder that true growth and personal mastery don't need approval, acknowledgement, or understanding from anyone else. You move, you evolve, and you reveal yourself on your own terms. And that unpredictability is what makes the impact so profound. In the end, the shock isn't a reflection of who you were. It's a reflection of how limited others were in their perception. They weren't prepared for someone who couldn't be neatly categorized or easily understood. You were never predictable. You were simply unread, quietly mastering your evolution while the world assumed they had the script. And that is a truth people hate hearing because it shatters their sense of control and forces them to accept the brilliance of a person who always operated beyond their expectations. The story of your reveal isn't just a tale of transformation. It's a testament to the unstoppable force of deliberate growth, self-mastery, and unapologetic evolution. Every point, every shock, every stunned reaction reflects a single, undeniable truth. You were never bound by the expectations, judgments, or assumptions of others. You moved quietly, built deliberately, and evolved strategically, leaving behind the outdated versions of yourself that no longer served your vision. What people witnessed wasn't just a change. It was a masterclass in self-determination, a demonstration that the past never defines the future, and that anyone who dares to grow beyond the confines of others' predictions leaves a ripple that shakes even the most confident assumptions. Your journey exposed more than just your own evolution. It revealed human nature in its rawest form, the laziness of assumptions, the comfort in predictability, the tendency to project one's limitations onto others, and the surprise, awe, and recalibration that comes when someone proves them all wrong. Each shock, each recalculation, each stunned pause from others wasn't just about you. It was about the mirror you held up to the world, showing what people often miss. True growth is silent, invisible, and often unread until it arrives in full force. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission, explanation, or validation. It simply exists, undeniable and transformative. This is the essence of breaking expectations. This is the power of being unread, and this is the proof that when you choose your evolution over their comfort, their disbelief isn't just inevitable, it's your silent victory. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even made you reconsider the way you perceive growth, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs a wake-up call, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Be part of the conversation, because transformation isn't just personal, it's contagious. Stay blessed always.